Alright, so this is a long video. It's a weird video. It's a video not usual to my channel. Go to the timestamp on the screen now for the actual start of the video. I have to preface this with, I am not a lawyer. I'm not a legal expert. I do not know legalese to the extent of having any sort of authority on it, nor do I have the understanding of legal experience necessary to properly divulge any information that is between the lines in the forthcoming information. I have never been in a courtroom. I've never stepped foot in one, God willing. And I also do have a business and IT degree. And the IT degree, along with the business, did have, as you would imagine, some legal expert classes in college, but I have not used those to any degree, and as such, I do not feel comfortable saying I'm not a legal expert. Anything I say in this video is purely my own personal opinion, should it not be written on the official EULA of Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Do not take anything I say as fact when I'm not reading the official EULA and when I'm talking on my own behalf, nor am I talking on behalf of anybody else but my own. With all that said, this is the full, unadulterated, word-for-word, verbatim reading of the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 End User License Agreement. I'm making this video as a purpose for anybody who wants to know what we're dealing with. This is one of 3 videos. I will be doing the privacy policy as well as the terms of service agreement in the near future. But for now, speaking for 2 hours straight was a bit of a task, so I need to do this in piecemeal. The EULA is hefty, it is tough to get through, but I just still wanted to read word for word in case you ever need a video to go back and should you hear some sort of controversy down the line in the near future, etc., and you go, I wonder what the user license agreement says about this. This video hopefully can serve as a guide for that. There are timestamps at the bottom. There are segments of the video at the bottom of the video itself, in the description, as well as on the video timeline. And all that said, I want to reiterate, do not take any of my own personal opinions as fact. I am not a legal expert. I do not know legality, and this is more of a guide of a video than it is anything else. I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get right on to the video. Alright, so with that preamble out of the way, here's how you get to the EULA and the others. You want to go up to settings, you want to go all the way down to account and network, you want to scroll down to the user agreements right above credits. Again, this is Black Ops 6. I'm assuming it's the same because COD HQ and everything else, but just to be safe, this is for Black Ops 6. In the COD HQ, actually I'll show you before I get into this, if you go to settings on the Call of Duty headquarters, you go down to account and everything else, they're also here. They do seem similar, they seem comparable. I don't know though. I'm more concerned about BO6 as obviously that's a current COD game in the cycle. So we're just going to start with the Software License and Service Agreement for the EULA. Important notice for residents in North America only. This agreement is subject to binding arbitration and a waiver of class action rights as detailed in Section 16 below. You must be and hereby affirm that you are an adult of the legal age of majority in your country and state of residence. If you are under the legal age of majority, your parent or legal guardian must consent to this agreement. Software License and Service Agreement. Use of this software program and any updates, any online services or downloads associated herewith, this software, including firmware, for any related peripherals, collectively peripheral, the associated media, printed materials, and documentation, collectively program, is subject to this software license and service agreement by opening this package, downloading, installing, or using the program, or clicking to accept. You accept the terms of this agreement with the Activision corporate entities set out in Section 17, Activision, we, and us, depending on where you acquired and used the program. If you do not agree to these terms, you are not permitted to install, copy, or use the program. To reject these terms, you must not click to accept these terms or install, copy, or use the program. For residents in North America only, if you reject this agreement, you can return your peripheral and the program and request a refund for your peripheral and the program within 30 days after the date of your purchase by visiting support.activision.com. Activision's privacy policy, available at www.activision.com/legal/privacy-policy, shall be deemed to be part of the agreement accepted and agreed to by you, and the terms of such are incorporated herein by reference. For residents outside of North America, if you, or if applicable, your parent or guardian, do not agree to this agreement, then you must not use or access the program or any part thereof. By clicking to accept, you represent and warrant that you are a natural person who is over the age of 18 or whose legal guardian has accepted and agreed to this agreement. If you reject this agreement, your return rights in relation to the program are governed by your statutory rights in the country where you bought the program. Please visit support.activision.com. Nothing in this paragraph shall affect your statutory rights. Please note that your rights in respect of online services and service-provided content are covered in sections 11 and 12. Your use of the program shall be subject to the terms of Activision's privacy policy available at activision.com/legal/privacy-policy. For residents outside the European Union and the United Kingdom, except for Section 16, arbitration and class action waiver, Activision reserves the right to modify this agreement at any time by any means, including without limitation by 1. Posting the modifications to support.activision.com/license, and or 2. Requiring you to click to accept the agreement, and your continued use of the program constitutes your acceptance of the modifications. If any future modifications to the agreement are unacceptable to you or cause you to no longer be in compliance with this agreement, you must terminate and immediately stop using the program. If further modifications are implemented as a click to accept agreement, you may not be able to continue using the program unless you affirmatively accept the modified agreement. For residents in the European Union and the United Kingdom, from time to time, Activision may modify, add to, supplement, or delete terms of this agreement, for instance if there is a change to its products and services, to improve player safety, or in case of change in applicable laws. If Activision substantially changes the terms of this agreement, Activision will notify you in advance before the new terms of this agreement come into effect, and you will be asked to accept those changes, to continue to use Activision products and services. You will have the option to refuse the amended agreement, but if you do, you will no longer be able to use such Activision products and services. The applicable version of this agreement is available on our website at support.activision.com/license. So we advise you to check whether the terms of the agreement have been updated each time you use Activision products and services. Forgive me for laughing, but how many people who live in the European Union and or United Kingdom, how many people who live there that use this game, do you think actually every time they go to open Call of Duty, take this advice to go and check whether the terms of the agreements have been updated? I don't want to interrupt myself too many times, but that just made me laugh. Changes to the terms of this agreement will not affect your rights, will not substantially change the contractual balance between you and Activision, and will not have retroactive effect. If you are a resident in Germany, the subsection, Modifications of Terms, in Section 19 shall apply to this paragraph instead. For residents in Australia and New Zealand, nothing in this agreement is intended to exclude, restrict, or modify, or have the effect of excluding, restricting, or modifying the application of any applicable laws in either Australia under Division 1 of Part 3-2 of the Australian Consumer Law, bracket, which forms Schedule 2 to the Competition and Consumer Act 2010, bracket again, CTH, end bracket, ACL, end bracket, end bracket, end bracket, or New Zealand, bracket, under the New Zealand Consumer Guarantees Act 1993, end bracket, that cannot be excluded, restricted, or modified by agreement between us, the non-excludable rights, end bracket. We acknowledge that in Australia, for major failures with any services, you are entitled to A, cancel the contract for the relevant service, and B, a refund of the unused portion, or to compensate for the reduced value of the relevant service. For a major failure with any goods, you are entitled to a replacement or refund. If a failure with the goods or services does not amount to a major failure, you are entitled to have the failure rectified in a reasonable time, and if that's not done, you are entitled to a refund with the goods and a refund of the unused portion of services. You are also entitled to be compensated for any other reasonably foreseeable loss or damage from a failure in the goods or services. And then we get on to Section 1. So this whole opening section, all of this, is just going over all the major areas where law differentials are easily noticeable. And what I mean by that is the United States consumer protection laws, if we have any, are not as strict as, say, the UK. And the UK is different from Australia, and Australia is different from, you name it. I mean, they really do cover almost all bases here, if not they do. I mean, for residents outside European Union and United Kingdom, so that right there is anybody outside of these, unless otherwise stated, is pretty much what they're stating. So this is just basically, here's under what conditions should we as Activision fail you be applicable to have a refund or a surmountable amount of money that is given back to you due to our failure based on what service of our products you have used. So that's pretty much this whole software license service agreement section in the very beginning. Okay, section 1. Services and additional terms of service. Use of certain features of the program, including online or multiplayer components or updated features, may require assent to additional terms of service. You will be provided with these additional terms of service at the time of the applicable features are made available to you. If you do not assent to the additional term of service, you may not be able to access or use the additional features that are subject to the additional terms of service. Basically, from what I'm reading here, just saying, whenever you use a service of this program, you are agreeing to the TOS. And 50,000 foot, you know, if there's you'll be provided with the additional terms of service at time of the applicable features are made available to you. Should something come up, they'll notify you. That's what I'm gathering from it. Section 2. Limited use and license. Subject to any system requirements, Activision grants you the non-exclusive, non-transferable, limited right and license to install and use one copy of the software components of the program solely for your personal use. All rights not specifically granted are reserved by Activision. The program is licensed, not sold, for your use. Your license confers no title or ownership in the program. It should not be construed as a sale of any rights in the program. This agreement shall also apply to patches or updates you may obtain for the program, unless that patch or update is accompanied by additional terms. You acknowledge and agree that, other than license granted to you by this agreement, you shall have no ownership or property interest in any product or service provided content as defined below, including, without limitation, online accounts, any virtual currency or goods, and you further acknowledge and agree that to the fullest extent permitted by applicable law, all rights and to such products or service provided content are and shall forever be owned by and to the benefit of Activision. For residents outside North America, for the avoidance of doubt, nothing in Section 2 shall limit your right to sell and transfer the physical media containing the program which you have rightfully purchased. For individuals based in the European Economic Area. As an integral part of this End-User License Agreement, or EULA, Microsoft agrees to allow consumers to play, solely for their personal use, eligible games on a streaming service on any device that they own, as defined in and pursuant to the commitments entered into by Microsoft and made legally binding by the European Commission in its decision under Article 8.2 of Regulation EC 139/2004 in case M.10646-Microsoft/Activision Blizzard. See www.xbox.com/en-us/legal/Activision-Blizzard-cloud-game-streaming-EU. Period, not part of the URL. So, interestingly, in my opinion, this whole section is just telling you what your rights are as far as ownership goes, which essentially is nothing. You own the right to the license, which they also have the ability to take back at any given moment. It does mention, for residents outside North America, for the avoidance of doubt, nothing in Section 2 shall limit your right to sell and transfer physical media containing the program which you have rightfully purchased. When I hear that, nothing in Section 2 shall limit your right to sell and transfer the physical media containing the program which you have rightfully purchased. So let's say, from my understanding here, I have a copy of a disc of Call of Duty, right? Or I install it and buy it on my PC and I sell my PC. I'm allowed to do that. They're not going to stop my selling of my PC just because it has Call of Duty on it, right? They're not going to stop my physical media of Call of Duty being able to be sold, such as, like, I don't know, say if you have a somehow physical copy of BO6. I don't even think those exist, unfortunately. But if you do, then you're allowed to sell that. So it's, again, that's just telling your rights and your ownership. Section 3, license conditions. This license is subject to the following limitations. License limitations. Any use of the program in violation of the license limitations is a serious violation of this agreement and will result in immediate termination of your license, and if you're a resident outside North America, additional consequences set out in Section 8.2c, and continued use of the program will be an infringement of Activision's copyrights and other rights in and to the program. A. You agree that you will not do or allow any of the following. Buckle in, buddy. 1. Exploit the program commercially. 2. Subject to any system requirements, use the program on more than one system at the same time. 3. Make copies of the program in whole or in part. 4. Without limiting the foregoing clause. 3. Copy the program onto a hard drive or other storage device unless the program itself makes a copy during installation, or unless you are downloading the program from an authorized Activision online retailer. 5. Use the program in a network, multi-user arrangement, or remote access arrangement, including any online use except as included in the program functionality. 6. Sell, rent, lease, license, distribute, or otherwise transfer the program. 7. Subject to applicable laws, reverse engineer, unless expressly permitted by Activision, derive source code, modify, decompile, disassemble, or create derivative works of the software and other proprietary technology in the program in whole or in part. 8. Create, develop, modify, offer, make available, distribute, host, promote, advertise, or use any unauthorized software program to gain advantage in any offline, online, or multiplayer game modes, including but not limited to cheats, automation software bots, modded lobbies, hacks, mods, or engaging in any form of cheating, boosting, or booting. Such behavior will be subject to scantation at Activision's discretion. For more information, see the program's applicable security and enforcement policy available at support.activision.com. 9. Remove, disable, or circumvent any proprietary notices or labels contained on or within the program. Or 10. Use, access, download, or otherwise export, re-export, or transfer the program in contravention, of applicable export control, economic sanctions, and import laws and regulations, including but not limited to the U.S. Export Administration Regulations, EAR or EAR, and regulations promulgated by the U.S. Department of Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, or OFAC, or OFAC. B. Unless expressly permitted by Activision and subject to applicable local laws, you agree not to permit the software in the peripheral or any part of it to be combined with, become incorporated in, or used with any software product other than the program. For residents outside the European Union and the United Kingdom, all rights granted to you under this agreement, including your use of the software in the peripheral, will terminate immediately in the event that you are in breach of any of the terms of this agreement, this paragraph, or do anything with any software in a peripheral that is not expressly permitted by this agreement. For residents in European Union and United Kingdom, all rights granted to you under this agreement, including your use of the software in the peripheral, will terminate immediately in the event that you seriously violate the terms of this agreement, violation of this section B, or doing anything with any software in a peripheral that is not expressly permitted by this agreement as is a serious violation of this agreement. C. You agree not to do any of the following while using the program. All right, before we go on to C, all right, I want to do a section by section, but this is, I mean, you got quite a while until 4. I want to bring note to Section 3, subsection A, number 8. Where is it? Create, develop, modify. Now remember, this is you agree will not do or allow any of the following. Create, develop, modify, offer, make available, distribute, host, promote, advertise, or use any unauthorized software programs to gain advantage of in any offline. So right off the bat, you're not allowed to use anything offline. Auto clickers, I would assume. Anything that, and that's not me saying that it says auto clickers, but as an example, an automated program that helps cheating in offline. Even offline, you're not allowed to do that. Online or multiplayer game modes, including but not limited to cheats, automation software such as bots. It is interesting that to say bots considering everything that's going on. Modded lobbies, hacks, mods, or engaging in any form of cheating, boosting, or booting. Alright? So in any form of cheating or boosting, which to me is fascinating. Because boosting has been around forever, but if you boost, you are technically violating this software license and service agreement, which you accepted. And I wonder if that includes reverse booting. But then it becomes, how do you prove that and everything else? So I just find that really interesting. It's something really, really important to make a specific note on. All right, let's continue here. C. You agree not to do any of the following while using the program. A. Harass, threaten, embarrass, or cause distress or discomfort upon any participant, user, or other individual or entity. B. Transmit any UGC as defined in Section 14 that Activision considers to be disruptive, unlawful, harmful, threatening, abusive, harassing, defamatory, vulgar, obscene, hateful, or racially, sexually, ethnically, or otherwise objectionable. C. Impersonate any person or entity, including but not limited to Activision. D. Disrupt normal program functionality or otherwise act in a manner that negatively affects any other participants and or the overall program experience. E. Post or transmit any unsolicited advertising, promotional materials, or any other forms of solicitation. F. Intentionally or unintentionally violate any applicable law, regulation, or treaty while using or accessing the program. G. Post multiple posts of the same content, i.e. spam. Or H. Invade the privacy or violate or infringe any right of any person or entity, including without limitation any intellectual property right. So this right here, this whole C section is just, hey, no more of the good old days. No more, yelling slurs and swears and making fun of people. You can't do that anymore. Which does mean they have protected themselves with the AI detection of your voice. But whether or not they're allowed to use AI to detect your voice and the things that you're saying is a separate thing that I'm sure is somewhere in one of these agreements. That's not the point. My point is, however it is, like let's say, maybe not AI, let's say an Activision employee is playing and they hear you, I don't know, drop any bomb, X, Y, or Z against another player. They have the ability and the right that you agreed to throw you in bad time in jail or possibly even terminate your ability to use the program. So, interesting. I'm sure that a lot of these have been around for a long time, but I do get the feeling that this is something that they made fairly recently, and by that I mean like in recent years, but now I'm speculating, I don't want to do that. D. You represent and warrant that you, 1, are not subject to U.S. sanctions or export restrictions and otherwise are eligible to utilize the program under applicable laws and regulations. 2, are not located or ordinarily resident in any country or region subject to comprehensive or near comprehensive U.S. sanctions / embargo unless your use of the program in such country or region is authorized by U.S. law. 3, are not an official, employee, agent, or contractor of, or directly or indirectly acting or purporting to act for or on behalf of a government, including any political subdivision, agency, or instrumentality thereof, or any person directly or indirectly owned or controlled by the foregoing, end bracket, or political party, example, Cuban Communist Party, Workers' Party of Korea, subject to U.S. sanctions / embargo, or any other entity in a sanctions / embargoed country or region, or subject to U.S. sanctions or embargo. And 4, will not use a program in connection with an end user prohibited by U.S. laws. That's fascinating that this is all about what areas of the world are hit by U.S. sanctions or export restrictions and whatever. That's all I'm saying. E. Parents and guardians of children under the age of majority in their jurisdiction of 18 years of age, whichever is older, agree to be responsible for all uses of the program by your non-adult children, REN, or words, whether or not such uses were authorized by you. F. Communications made by product should not be considered private. Activision may monitor okay, here we go. I'm going to stop myself. F. Communications made using a product should not be considered private. Activision may monitor and or record your communications, including, without limitation, chat, text, voice communications, and website or other typed interactions when you are using a product, and you hereby provide your irrevocable express consent to such monitoring and recording. You acknowledge and agree that you have no exception of privacy concerning the transmission of any UGC or communications, including, without limitation, chat, text, voice communications, and typed interactions of any kind while using the product. Because voice chat and other communications may be viewed and or heard by other users, users should avoid revealing any personally identifiable information. Additionally, Activision may, with or without notice to you, disclose your Internet Protocol IP addresses, personal information, chat logs, and other information about you and your activities consistent with the Activision Privacy Policy, available at www.activision.com/legal/privacy-policy. And there it is. There's the recording. So you have acknowledged that they can record you. It is what it is. They put it in here. It's here. You have no... You agree... You acknowledge and agree that you have no expectation of privacy concerning transmission of any UGC or communications, including without limitation, yada yada yada. You have no privacy when using this game. Be aware of that. G. Consent to monitor while running the product, open bracket, including software, kernel level driver, or other technical mechanism, end bracket, may monitor your computer or console for unauthorized programs or processes running either concurrently with software or out of processes. And quote-unquote unauthorized program, as used herein, shall be defined as any software prohibited by Section 3A above. During this process, certain identifying information about your device, software, or processes may be communicated back to Activision to assess whether any unauthorized programs are running. In the event that the product detects the signatures of unauthorized activity or programs, A, the product may communicate information back to Activision about the unauthorized activity, including without limitation your account name, details about the unauthorized activity detected, and the time and date, and or B, Activision may exercise any or all of its rights under this agreement, with or without prior notice to the user. By accepting this agreement, you are hereby authorizing Activision to access your device for these purposes. I can't say that's shocking, but they are watching you. They are watching you. H. If you are concerned that someone else is engaged in unlawful conduct in connection with any online service or has violated program's code of conduct, if any, or if you believe you have been exposed to content contemplated by Section 3.c of this agreement, prohibited content, please contact us at support.activision.com while we take the following steps to help keep our online services safe and fun for our players. Bullet 1. We use appropriate tools and procedures to proactively monitor prohibited content across our online services. For example, we use automated language filters to moderate offensive language. Bullet 2. We make available reporting functionality in our games, enabling players to report prohibited content to us. For more information on how to report prohibited content, see support.activision.com. And bullet 3. We take timely action on reports from players about prohibited content across our online services, open bracket, such as usernames, profile photos, end bracket. For more information on how we moderate prohibited content and review reports from players, see support.activision.com. And then we're on to 4. 3, if you're concerned about your privacy, if you're curious about what rights you give up to your ability to speak freely or chat freely or type freely, whatever it may be, if you are concerned about that, this is a section for you. 3 talks all about it. You have given them the right to record you. You have given them the right to watch your driver, watch your computer for any extracurricular programs, essentially. And you have given them the right, essentially, to allow them to make decisions that it seems like they don't even need to notify you about regarding your profile. And you're not able to smack talk. You're not able to smack type. You're not able to transmit any unsolicited advertising, promotional materials, or other forms of solicitation intentionally or unintentionally violate any applicable law. You can't even accidentally break the law. I mean, again, this is all normal stuff. But if you have questions about what your rights are with privacy, see Section 3. 4. Ownership. All title, ownership rights, and intellectual property rights in and to the program are owned by Activision, affiliates of Activision, or Activision's licensors. The program is protected by the copyright laws of the United States of America, international copyright treaties, conventions, and other laws. The program may contain certain licensed materials, and Activision's licensors may protect their rights in the event of any violation of this agreement. Notwithstanding anything to the contrary, you acknowledge and agree that you shall have no ownership or other property interest in any account stored or hosted on an Activision system, quote-unquote, account. And you further acknowledge and agree that all rights in and to these accounts are and shall forever be owned by and inure to the benefit of Activision. For residents in North America, Activision may suspend, terminate, modify, or delete any of the accounts at any time for any reason or no reason with or without notice of you. So that feels very similar to what we read up here. I think it was somewhere in 2. Section 4 is just talking about, again, your ownership. Yeah, Section 2, very similar, but it's almost like a bit more clear and explicit in what your ownership rights are and what they can do with it. Section 5, patches and updates. Here we go. Activision may deploy or provide mandatory patches, updates, and modifications to the program that must be installed for you to continue to use the program in order to, for example, without limitation, 5A, ensure compliance with applicable laws and or reflect change in relevant laws and regulatory requirements. 5B, perform temporary maintenance, fix bugs, implement technical adjustments, and make improvements. 5C, update or upgrade the program, including updating the structure, design, or layout for the program. 5D, ensure the security of the program. And 5E, to combat against illegal and or harmful activities and the use of unauthorized programs or other activities which breach this agreement. Broadband internet is required for such patches, updates, and modifications. You are responsible for any and all broadband access and usage fees. That's fair. For residents outside the European Economic Area in the United Kingdom, Activision may update the program remotely without notifying you, and you hereby grant to Activision consent to deploy and apply such patches, updates, and modifications. For residents in the United Kingdom, Activision may update the program remotely without notifying you, provided that any such updates do not result in material derogation. To be honest, never read that word before. And the functionality of the program, and you hereby grant to Activision consent to deploy such and apply such patches, updates, and modifications. For residents in the European Economic Area, unless otherwise required by applicable laws, Activision may update the program remotely without notifying you. If any updates to the program result in negatively impacting your access or use of the program in a more than minor way, we will give you notice of such changes. If you don't agree to the changes, you will be able to terminate your agreement with us within 30 days from the date of any notice we provide, or 30 days from when the change comes into effect, whichever is later. You may also be able to receive a proprietary refund for any program or service provided content paid for but not received. Please visit support.activision.com for more information. If you do not object to the changes or terminate the agreement within the stated time limit, we will take that as your acceptance of the changes. If you are resident in Germany, the terms in the subsection patches and updates in section 19 will apply instead of this section 5. Limited hardware warranty. Residents in North America and Australia only. 6A. Oh, yeah, this is section 6. Right, so, sorry. 5 is just talking about what happens when they have a patch or update and what they're allowed to manipulate within your own system based on their need to push out such an update. You have... It's pretty much what you would expect, honestly. There's nothing here that's like, oh my word! But it's pretty self-explanatory. It is kind of interesting For residents in the European Economic Area, they're able to, if they don't agree with a patch or update, they're actually able to basically request a refund as long as it's within a 30-day period. But yeah, so that's just all Section 5 is. Section 6, limited hardware warranty, residents in North America and Australia only. 6A, Activision warrants to the original consumer purchaser of this program that the physical media on which this program is stored and any physical accessories, together the quote-unquote goods, will be free from defects in material and workmanship for 90 days from the date of purchase. If the goods are found defective within 90 days of original purchase, Activision agrees to replace free of charge the applicable defective goods within the applicable 90-day period upon its receipt of the program, postage paid with proof of the day of purchase, so long as the goods are still being manufactured by Activision. If the goods are no longer available, Activision retains the right to substitute similar goods of equal or greater value. This warranty is limited to the goods as originally provided by Activision and is not applicable to normal wear and tear. This warranty shall not be applicable and shall be void if the defect has arisen through abuse, mistreatment, or neglect. Any implied warranties prescribed by statute are expressly limited to the 90-day period described above. Except as set forth herein, this warranty is in lieu of all other warranties, express or implied. For residents in North America, for information about warranty replacement or other consumer service inquiries, visit support.activision.com. For residents of Australia, this warranty is provided in addition to other rights and remedies that you may have regarding the goods provided to you in this game bundle under the Australian consumer law. The goods come with guarantees that cannot be excluded under the Australian consumer law. You are entitled to a replacement or refund for a major failure and compensation for any other reasonably foreseeable loss or damage. You are also entitled to have the goods repaired or replaced if the goods fail to be of acceptable quality and the failure does not amount to a major failure. Please contact Activision on 1300-748-995 or email ausupport@activision.com or mail P.O. Box 544 Pyrmont, NSW 2009, Australia, if you have an issue with the goods provided to you in this game bundle. If a replacement or repair is required, Activision will instruct you on the process. As part of the process, you may be asked to send 6.1, the physical media, for example, CD-ROM/DVD/Blu-ray disc/cartridge, open bracket again, not including manual or case, close bracket, in protective packaging. 6.2, the accessory. 6.3, photocopy of your dated sales receipt. 6.4, your name and return address typed or clearly printed. 6.5, a brief note describing the defect, the problems you are encountering in the system on which you are running the software. And 6.6, the incident number given to you by customer support. You may be required to also send a check or money order, but if your claim is determined to be valid, you may be entitled to a refund of this amount. Unless otherwise directed by consumer support, please send items to be replaced, open bracket, registered mail recommended, close bracket, to limited physical media/peripheral warranty replacements, Activision Blizzard Australia Pty Limited, P.O. Box 544 Pyrmont, NSW 2009, Australia. The provisions of this limitation of damages clause below apply only to the extent permitted by the Competition and Consumer Act 2010 CTH. 6.6b, limited hardware warranty. Open bracket, residents of all countries other than North America and Australia only, close bracket. The warranty for the program is provided in accordance with your statutory rights as a consumer, which will always prevail. For information about Activision procedures or replacements of the program, European Union and other countries outside of North America and Australia, or other customer service inquiries, please check support.activision.com. And 6. 6, I don't really know. I'm a little confused. Honestly, my best guess is, Activision warrants that the original consumer purchaser of this program, that the physical media on which this program is stored. I can't imagine that what they're saying is if our program causes damage to any part of your system within 90 days of purchasing, we will replace said part. I can't imagine that's what it's saying, because it does mention that it's assuming that Activision still produces said content, and like I don't think Activision is creating any NVIDIA graphics cards, so I don't totally know what this is in reference to. I could be just completely stupid right now, which is always possible. You're talking about me, but yeah, I mean 6 is just, I guess, a replacement focused warranty. I guess. I don't know. 7. Limitation of damages. 7A. For residents in North America, to the fullest extent allowed by applicable law, Activision shall not be liable for special, incidental, or consequential damages resulting from possession, use, or malfunction of the program, including damages to property, computer failure, or malfunction, and damages for personal injuries, even if Activision has been advised of this possibility of these damages. Activision's liability shall not exceed the actual price paid for the license to use the program. Some states/countries do not allow limitations on how long an implied warranty lasts and/or the exclusion of limitation of damages, so the above limitations and/or exclusions may not apply to you. This warranty gives you specific legal rights, and you may have other rights which vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. 7B. For residents outside North America, nothing in this agreement shall limit or exclude Activision's liability to you. Bullet point 1. For death or personal injury caused by our negligence. Bullet point 2. For fraudulent misrepresentation, or bullet point 3. For any other liability that may not, under the laws of jurisdiction where you reside, be limited or excluded. Subject to this, in no event shall Activision be liable to you for any business losses, and any liability Activision does have for your losses you suffer is strictly limited to losses that were reasonably foreseeable and shall not, in aggregate, exceed the greater of the following. The total price paid by you for the program, plus any paid for service provided content over the previous 12 months from the date on which the liability arises, or the sum of GBP 500 or equivalent amount under the current foreign exchange rate. There's a CYA. Cover your, you know what, cover your butt, I'll call it. They're liable for certain things, not liable for other things. Nothing in this agreement shall limit or exclude Activision's liability to you for death or blah, blah, blah. So that's just saying, if something happens, here's what we are able to be held accountable for. Here's what we're not able to be accounted for. 8. Termination. 8.1. For residents of North America, without prejudice to any other rights of Activision, if you fail to comply with terms and conditions of this agreement and are subject to the severity of your breach, Activision, at its discretion, may limit your use of the program or terminate this agreement. The applicable program security and enforcement policy available at support.activision.com. Interesting that they don't have the https:// at the beginning of that, but whatever. Sets out more in detail the actions you may not perform and the types of limitations Activision may impose if you misuse the program. In the event Activision elects to terminate this agreement as a sanction for misuse, you must destroy all copies of the program and all of its component parts. You may also terminate the agreement at any time by permanently deleting by permanently deleting any installation of the program and destroying all copies of the program in your possession or control. 8.2. For residents outside North America, Activision may terminate the license granted to you under this agreement and/or suspend, modify, or delete your account at any time without giving you any prior notice if you seriously violate this agreement. Serious violations are violations of important provisions which include Section 3, 11A, and 11D of this agreement, repeated violations of other provisions of this agreement, open bracket, including further non-compliance where you have already received a prior warning, end bracket, or as otherwise detailed in the applicable program security and enforcement policy available at support.activision.com. If you think that such decision was taken wrongly, you can contact Activision at support.activision.com. If Activision cannot resolve your complaint and you are a resident of the European Union, you can use the online dispute resolution platform set up by the European Commission, in which you can access at ec.europa.eu/odr. 2B. 8 2B. Okay. 8 to B, not to B. 8 to B. Activision may also terminate the license granted to you under this agreement and/or suspend, modify, or delete your account if it has another valid reason to do so, open bracket, For example, ceasing an online service for economic reasons due to a limited number of users continuing to make use of the service over time, end bracket, or without reason by giving you a reasonable prior notice. If you're a resident of Germany, these terms in Section 19 will apply to you instead of Section 2A and 2B. 8.2c. If Activision terminates the license granted to you under this agreement and or suspends or deleted your account, this means that your access to and right to use the program will be revoked. 8.3. For residents in the European Economic Area, 8.3a, in addition to Section 2A and 3B and 2B, above, with the exception of agreements relating to 1. 8.3.1 service provided content, or 8.3.2 programs which do not involve aspects of online-based gameplay. If you are resident in a country in the European Economic Area, you have a legal right to cancel your agreement with us at any time within the time limits set out in applicable consumer laws. Instructions on how to exercise this right are set out at the end of this agreement in Appendix 1, Section A, open bracket, Section A, information concerning the exercise of the right of withdrawal, close bracket. 8.4. The following provisions shall survive termination of this agreement. License conditions, Section 3. Ownership, Section 4. Limited hardware warranty, Section 6A and 6B. Limitation of damages, Section 7A and 7B. Termination, Section 8. Indemnity. Another word I don't recognize. Section 10. Service provided content, Section 11. Availability, Section 12. Access, Section 13. Binding aberration, arbitration, and class action waiver, Section 16. Jurisdiction and applicable law, Section 17. And miscellaneous, Section 18. 9. For your residents... Oh, wait, no, okay, so that's the end. Sorry. Alright. So, 8. 8 is a bit more legalese than the others thus far, but essentially this is what happens if they decide to terminate your license. And all it really is stating is, if you live in this area, you can act on this using these means. If you don't live in this area, here's what else you can do. Otherwise, we reserve the right to pretty much do whatever you want. It does also state, for example, in 8.1, towards the end of the paragraph, you may also terminate the agreement at any time by permanently deleting any installation of the program and destroying all copies of the program in your possession or control. So basically, once you fully delete this program and you get it off your system, you have essentially terminated your agreement with the EULA here. Which, I mean, it makes sense. You've deleted the program. Why would you need to be agreeing to something that doesn't affect you anymore? So that's one way to terminate it. I mean, again, this is more than just your ability to terminate things. This is also about their ability to terminate things on their end. Yeah. So Section 8 is just pretty much who can do what at what time, and based on where you are. 9. A lot smaller. For residents in North America, U.S. government restricted rights. The program has been developed entirely at private expense and are provided as, quote, commercial computer software, end quote, or, quote, restricted computer software, end quote. Use, duplication, or disclosure by the U.S. government or a U.S. government subcontractor is subject to the restrictions set forth in paragraph C12 of the Rights and Technical Data in Computer Software classes in DFARS 252.227-7013, or as set forth in subparagraph C1 and 2 of the Commercial Computer Software Restricted Rights clauses at FAR 52.227-19 as applicable. The contractor/manufacturer is Activision Publishing Incorporated, 2701 Olympic Boulevard, Building B, Santa Monica, California, 90404. I don't know what it's referring to with DFARS, DFARS, and FAR. And it does mention the U.S. government. And I mean, if the U.S. government does this, then you'll have to refer to these. I'm wondering if this is talking about if the U.S. government decides to use this for government purposes. And this is going all the way back to the classic Call of Duty is a propaganda machine. At the end of the day, the government needs to get people involved in the military. And one way that the government can do that is by piquing interest of people at a younger age. Yes, it sounds bad when it's said this way, but this is just how the world works. By having entertainment put in front of them that induces thoughts of war. Now, I could totally be missing the mark with what 9 is stating, but essentially, from what I'm gathering, If the U.S. government or U.S. government subcontractor is using our program, here's what we're dealing with. Here's what you need to read about and what rights we still withhold and they still withhold, etc., etc. And it sounds like the government has certainly done things in the past to cover their butts on what they want to use for propaganda. I say propaganda for preparing people for war and or getting them interested in military exercises. That's what I'm taking from 9. As I said in the preamble, I'm not a lawyer. I have no legal expertise. I just went to school and had 6 business classes, or more than 6 business classes. So, I am not. This is not official legal advice by any stretch of the imagination. That's just my guess based on someone who is using logic, I guess. So, that is interesting. I might read into DFARS one day and FAR as well. 10. For residents in North America, indemnity. I'm sorry. I'm going to sound stupid. I know. Indemnity. To the fullest extent allowed by applicable law, you agree to indemnity, defend and hold Activision, its partners, affiliates, licensors, contractors, officers, directors, employees, and agents harmless from all damages, losses, and expenses arising directly or indirectly from your breach of this agreement and or your acts and omissions in using this program pursuant to the terms of this agreement. No matter what you do, you're not going to go after these people here. That's kind of what I'm gathering. Like, so if you're an Activision employee, you know that people have agreed in the EULA to not, I guess, be harmful to you. Kind of odd, but it does make sense, I guess. At least they're trying to look out for the employees, I guess. 11. Service provided content. Quote, service provided content, end quote, consists of all virtual materials, information, and content provided to you, open bracket, example, unlockable content, accounts, stats, virtual assets, virtual currencies, codes, achievements, virtual rewards, credits, access, shows, tokens, coins, power-ups, and customizations, end quote, end bracket, in connection with your use of the program, including the online services which you need to, quote, earn, unquote, quote, grind, unquote, quote, buy, unquote, and / or, quote, purchase, unquote, in order to obtain additional content. I can't believe that in the EULA, they actually, quote, grind. Never thought it was either where that's legally acknowledged by Activision. But hey, whatever. While the program may allow you to, again, earn, grind, buy, or purchase, all that being in quotes for or. Service provided content within or in connection with gameplay. You do not, in fact, own or have any property interest in the service provided content, and the price of any service provided content does not refer to any credit balance of real currency or its equivalent. Unless otherwise specified in writing, any service provided content that you receive is licensed to you as set forth herein, and you shall have no ownership right thereto in any service provided content. 11a. You may not sell, lend, rent, trade, or otherwise transfer any service provided content except for other service provided content where applicable. Any sale of service provided content, including but not limited to virtual currency for, quote, real, unquote, money, or exchange of those items or virtual currency for value outside of the program is prohibited. 11b. Service provided content may be altered, removed, deleted, or discounted by Activision, open bracket, example, upon termination of this agreement and / or cessation of online support for the program as set out in section 8, end bracket. Even if you have not, quote, used, unquote, or, quote, consumed, unquote, the service provided content prior to alteration, removal, deletion, or discontinuation. Without limiting the above, service provided content may include virtual coins, points, or virtual currencies, open bracket, virtual currency, quote, unquote, end bracket. 11c. By purchasing or otherwise acquiring virtual currency, you obtain a limited license, open bracket, which is revocable by Activision at any time unless otherwise required by applicable laws and for residents outside of North America only, in accordance with Section 8, end bracket, to access and select from other service provided content. Virtual currency has no monetary value and does not constitute currency or property of any type. Virtual currency may be redeemed for other service provided content only, if at all. Subject to applicable local law, virtual currency is non-refundable, and you are not entitled to a refund or any other compensation such as service provided content for any unused virtual currency. Any unused virtual currency is non-exchangeable. Activision may revise the pricing for the service provided content and virtual currency offered through the program at any time. Activision may limit the total amount of service-provided content or virtual currency that may be purchased at any time, and or limit the total account of service-provided content or virtual currency that may be held in your account in the aggregate. 11D. You are only allowed to purchase service-provided content or virtual currency from Activision or our authorized partners through the program and not in any other way. Section E. 11E, excuse me. Activision reserves the right to refuse your requests to acquire service-provided content and/or virtual currency. You agree that you will be solely responsible for paying any applicable taxes related to the acquisition of, use, or access to service-provided content and/or virtual currency. 11F. There may be service-provided content, open bracket, should you choose to purchase it, close bracket, which will require you to make a payment with real money, the amount of which will be set out in the program. All service-provided content will be made available immediately when you purchase it with real money, and you acknowledge that this is the case and that you will have no right to change your mind and cancel, open bracket, sometimes be known as, quote, cooling off, unquote, right, end bracket, once your purchase is complete. Depending on your platform, any service-provided content purchased will be purchased from your platform provider, such as purchase will be seen to their respective terms of service and user agreement. Please check usage rights for each purchases, as these may differ from item to item. Unless otherwise shown, content available in any in-game store has the same age rating as the game. So, 11 is interesting. More than the others in a way, because this is about, like, the bundles, basically, right? It's talking about, here's a bundle, and not just the gun and blueprint, but also, like, the gobblegum bundles, and anything you buy. Anything that you can buy using COD points, they have the right to change it, remove it, delete it, change the price. They can do whatever the heck they want to it. You do not own in any fathom of the imagination. You do not own anything, any rights, or nothing like that. You are just basically renting out, quote unquote. I'll just use that word even though it's not true. You are renting out indefinitely a license to the products that you buy on the COD store. So whenever you buy something, just be aware, they can absolutely delete it at any time. And although they may not be in the good graces of the community, they are protected by this EULA. And it's kind of interesting. Where did I see that? So right down here in section 11F. All service-provided content will be made available immediately when you purchase it with real money, and you acknowledge that this is the case and that you will have no right to change your mind and cancel, sometimes known as cooling off right, once purchase is complete. So when it's done, you can't do anything about it. Okay, never mind. I saw it cooling off. I thought, oh, that's interesting. Never mind. All right, 12. Availability. Section 12. 12A. For residents in North America, Activision does not guarantee that any online services, player features associated with the program, collectively online services, or service-provided content will be available at all times or at any point, or at any given time, or that Activision will continue to offer online services, service-provided content for any particular length of time. Activision may change and update online services or service-provided content without notice to you. Activision makes no warranty or representation regarding the availability of online services and reserves the right to modify or discontinue online services in its sole discretion without notice, including, for example, ceasing an online service for economic reasons due to a limited number of users continuing to make use of the online service over time. Notwithstanding anything to the contrary, you acknowledge and agree that online services may be terminated in whole or in part at Activision's sole discretion without notice to you, and in connection with online services termination, and any and all service-provided content licensed to you may be terminated. You assume any and all risk of loss associated with termination of online services and any loss of service-provided content or otherwise. 12B. For residents outside North America, subject to the next sentence and without prejudice to your applicable statutory warranties, Activision does not guarantee that the program and any online services or service provided content will be available or error-free at all times or at any given time. Activision warrants that the program, in addition to any online services and service provided content which has been paid for with real money, will substantially comply with the description provided at the point of purchase and be of satisfactory quality. open bracket. In addition, any related services provided through them will be provided with reasonable care and skill, end bracket. Unless it would put Activision in breach of a statutory conformity warranties, Activision reserves the right to modify or discontinue the program, online services, or service-provided content in its sole discretion upon reasonable notice to you, including, for example, ceasing online services for economic reasons due to a limited number of users continuing to make use of them over time. Activision may change and update, open bracket, or require you to update, close bracket, the program, online services, or services-provided content without notice to you to implement minor technical adjustments and improvements, open bracket, for example, to address security threat or fix bugs, close bracket, perform temporary maintenance and make improvements, including altering the structure, design, or layout of the program, online services, or service-provided content, to combat against illegal and/or harmful activities and the use of unauthorized programs or other activities which breach this agreement, and/or to reflect changes in relevant laws and regulatory requirements, provided always that any such changes do not result in a more than minor negative impact in your access and the functionality of the program, online services, or any service provided content which has been paid for with real money. Activision may also make other changes to the program, online services, or service provided content by giving you a reasonable prior notice. If such changes are not acceptable to you, you may contact Activision to terminate your agreement with us before the changes take effect and discuss free refund options for any service or content paid for but not received. Unless applicable law states otherwise, Activision is not liable or responsible for any failure to perform or delay in performance of any of its obligations that is caused by events outside of its reasonable control. If such circumstances result in a more than minor negative impact in the functionality of the program or service provided content, then your obligation to make any payment to download, use, or access them will be suspended for the duration of such period. The warranty for online services and/or service provided content, which are paid for with real money, is provided in accordance with your statutory rights as a consumer, which will always prevail. Please see Section 7 in respect of Activision's limitation on damages, but nothing in this paragraph shall affect your statutory rights. For evidence in European Economic Area, in addition to the above Section 12b, your local laws may also provide you with a legal guarantee that the program will be in legal conformity at the time of supply and during the life of its agreement with you. Under this legal guarantee, we will be liable for lack of conformity of the program, and you may have a right under your local laws to 12a, have the program brought back in conformity, or 12b, a proportionate refund and/or termination of the agreement. Please visit support.activision.com / for further information. If you are resident in France, the terms in Appendix 1, Section C, apply to the statutory guarantees of the program. Basically, they can do whatever they want. They can delete anything, they can get rid of anything, they can alter anything without notice to you. They're not going to have to go through any loops and ladders for themselves. Why would they? They're the ones making this. They can even delete the whole game if they wanted. And it sounds like, if I'm reading this correctly, they don't have to tell you. Just, it is what it is. They do repeat this a few times. It sounds like it's more specific each time they say it about whatever it is they're talking about. But yeah, I mean, anything in this game, whether it's something that you buy with COD points or the game itself or whatever it is, they have the ability and the right to get rid of at any moment with or without notice to you. It is what it is. Section 13. Access. You are solely responsible for any third-party costs you incur to use the program and services. You acknowledge and agree that you will provide at your own cost and expense the equipment, internet, or other connection charges required to access and use the program. Activision makes no warranty that the program can be accessed or used on all systems, controllers, or devices by means of any specific internet or other connection provider or in all territories. For more information on which systems and platforms are compatible with the program, please see the program's product page on your retailer's website. The program may integrate, but be all integrated into, or be provided in connection with third-party services and content. Activision does not control those third-party services and content. You should read the terms of use agreements and privacy policies that apply to such third-party services and content. Section 13. All it's talking about is, here's what happens if you use other stuff. If you use, third-party programs, programs, but like, internet and ways to access this. Hey, we're just Activision. We don't have anything to do with them. So, that's all that's saying. Understandable. Of all things, I think 13 is probably the most understandable thus far. Section 14, user-generated content. The program may include means by which you and other users may share user-generated content, UGC, to the fullest extent permitted by applicable law. By submitting any UGC, you automatically grant, open bracket, or represent and warrant the owner that the owner of such rights have expressly granted, end bracket, Activision a perpetual, worldwide, royalty-free, irrevocable, non-exclusive right and license to use, reproduce, modify, adapt, publish, translate, sublicense, create derivative works from, and distribute such UGC or incorporate such UGC content into any form, medium, or technology now known or later developed throughout the universe. It literally says throughout the universe. Does it mean like our real universe? That's crazy. That's crazy. Or technology now known or later developed throughout the universe. It agreed that Activision shall be entitled to unrestricted use of the user-generated content UGC for any purpose whatsoever, commercial or otherwise, without compensation, open bracket, but subject to applicable local legislation, end bracket, notice or attribution. You waive and agree not to assert against Activision or any of its partners, affiliates, subsidiaries, or licensees any moral or similar rights you may have in any of your UGC. If you are resident in the European Economic Area, nothing in Section 14 is intended to affect your statutory rights regarding our use of UGC on the termination of your agreement with us. To the extent the program permits other users access to and use your UGC, you also grant such users the right to use, copy, modify, display, perform, create derivative works from, and otherwise communicate and distribute your UGC on or through the program without further notice, attribution, or compensation to you. You may only upload your own UGC as a program. Do not upload anyone else's UGC. Activision reserves the right, open bracket, but has no obligation, close bracket, to remove, block, edit, move, or disable UGC for any reason at Activision's sole discretion. Activision is not responsible for and does not endorse or guarantee the opinions, views, advice, or recommendations posted or sent by other users. For residents of all countries outside of North America, users of the program create, upload, download, and use UGC at their own risk. If you upload or make available to other users your UGC via our program, we do not control, monitor, endorse, or own your UGC, and you are commissioning us to host and make available such UGC subject to the above license. Complaints about the content of any UGC must be sent to legalaffairs@activision.com, must contain details of the specific UGC giving rise to complaint. 14 is fun. This was fun. I really like it. Has to mean the real universe. I thought at first, like, does that mean like the in-view verse of the game? But no, it literally says. So this is talking. All right. So first, 14 is talking about user-generated content. I'm assuming that it's talking about Call of Duty and not anything else, because I can't think of any user-generated content you can upload. I mean, I guess like a build of the gun, right? Like you can't make a emblem. You can't make a, well, it could be clan tag, I guess. Anything that you create that is shared on the program can be used by anybody at any time for any reason without notice of you or any compensation to you. I get it. That's fine. I just think it's hilarious that it says, or incorporate such user-generated content into any form, medium, or technology now known or later developed throughout the universe. Bruh, throughout the universe. So if there's an alien on planet Zanzibar in the galaxy of Kololo, then John Yo of Zanzibar in Kololo can use my user-generated content because it's in the universe. That's insane. I love it. That's almost kind of humorous in its legalese. I don't know. That's funny. Wow. All right. 15. For residents in North America, copyright notice. If you believe that any content appearing in the program and/or UGC has been copied in a way that constitutes copyright infringement, please forward the following information to the copyright agent named below. Your copyright infringement notification must comply with the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or DMCA. You are encouraged to review 17 USC subsection 512C3. I think it's subsection, the little thing there. I don't know what that's called. I'm sorry. 512C3, or consult with an attorney prior to sending a notice hereunder. To file a copyright infringement notice, you'll need to send a written communication that includes the following to the addresses listed below. A, your name, address, telephone number, and email addresses. B, a description of the copyrighted work that you claim has been infringed. C, the exact URL or description of where the alleged infringing material is located. D, a statement by you that you have a good faith belief that the disputed use is not authorized by the copyright owner, its agent, or the law. E, an electronic or physical signature of the person authorized to act on behalf of the owner of copyright interest. And F, a statement by you under penalty of perjury that the above information in your notice is accurate and that you are the copyright owner or authorized to act on the copyright owner's behalf. And you would contact copyright agent, Activision Publishing Incorporated, 2701 Olympic Boulevard, Building B, Santa Monica, California, 90404. Attention, Activision Business and Legal Affairs. Fax, 310-255-2152. Email, legalaffairs@activision.com. Please note that the DMCA provides that you may be liable for damages, open bracket, including costs and attorney fees, close bracket, if you knowingly misrepresent the material or activity is infringing. Please also note that the information provided in your copyright infringement notice may be provided to the person responsible for the allegedly infringing material. Yeah, that's just, hey, I don't like what this guy's doing. He's going against my copyright. Activision, take it down. And that's what you do. I mean, that's far beyond the purposes of most people, I would say. Section 16. For residents in North America, binding arbitration and class action waiver. Read this section carefully. It may significantly affect your legal rights, including waiving your right to file a lawsuit in court or to pursue claims in a class or representative capacity. These binding arbitration and class action waiver provisions apply to you if you are domiciled in and/or acquired and use a program in the United States. In the United States, this agreement is governed by the Federal Arbitration Act, FAA, a federal arbitration law. These provisions may also apply to you if you are domiciled in and/or acquired and use a program from outside the United States. See jurisdiction and applicable law below for details. To the fullest extent allowed by applicable law, you and Activision agree to submit all disputes between us to individual binding arbitration pursuant to the provisions in this section 16. A quote dispute unquote means any dispute, claim, or controversy, open bracket, except those specifically exempted below, end bracket, between you and Activision that in any way relates to or arises from any aspect of our relationship, including, without limitation, your use or attempted use of the program, all marketing related to the program and/or virtual currency, any licensed content, and all matters relating to or arising from this agreement, open bracket, including Activision's privacy policy, and all other terms incorporated into this agreement, end bracket. Or use any agreement between you and Activision, including any disputes over the validity or enforcement ability of this agreement to arbitration. A dispute shall be subject to these binding arbitration and class action waiver provisions, regardless of whether it is based in contract, statute, regulation, ordinance, tort, open bracket, including fraud, misrepresentation, fraudulent inducement, or negligence, end bracket, or any other legal or equitable theory. This includes claims or requests for relief that occurred before you entered into this agreement. You understand that there is no judge or jury in arbitration and that the court review of an arbitration award is limited. Initial dispute resolution. Activision's customer support department is available at support.activision.com/ to address any concerns you may have regarding the program. Most concerns are quickly resolved in this manner to our customer satisfaction. In an effort to accelerate resolution and reduce the cost of any dispute between us, you and Activision agreed to first attempt to negotiate any dispute informally for at least 30 days before either party initiates any arbitration or court proceeding, open bracket, the quote initial dispute resolution period, end quote, close bracket. That period begins upon receipt of written notice from the party raising the dispute. If Activision has a dispute with you, it will send notice of that dispute to your billing address and email address you have provided to us. If you have a dispute with Activision, you must notify us in writing at the following email address, legalaffairs@activision.com, using the subject line, Initial Dispute Resolution Notice. Quote, unquote. Your notice of dispute must be individual to you and must include your name, the screen name and / or email address associated with your player account, and your residential address. The notice of dispute also must describe the dispute, explaining the facts of the dispute as you understand them, and tell Activision what you want us to do to resolve the problem. The parties shall use their best efforts to settle any dispute directly through consultation and good faith negotiations, and you agree that a notice of dispute containing all the information required above, followed by at least 30 days of good faith negotiation, are preconditions to either party in initiating a lawsuit or arbitration. A notice of dispute will be valid, will not start the initial dispute resolution period, and will not allow you or Activision later to initiate a lawsuit or arbitration unless it contains all the information required by this paragraph. If either of us commences an arbitration without having previously provided a valid and complaint notice of dispute, you and Activision agree that Activision authorized the arbitration provider or the arbitrator to decide summarily whether the party that commenced an arbitration complies with the initial dispute resolution period requirement, relying solely on this agreement and the notice of dispute, open bracket, if any, close bracket, that you or Activision provided before commencing arbitration. Binding arbitration. If a dispute cannot be resolved through negotiations or any initial dispute resolution period, then either party may initiate binding arbitration as the sole means to formally resolve the dispute unless an exception applies as stated below. Except in the event of a mass arbitration, open bracket, as defined below, close bracket, the arbitration will be administered by JAMS, J-A-M-S, in accordance with the JAMS streamlined arbitration rules of procedure. The open bracket, the quote, JAMS rules, end quote, close bracket, effective as of the date of the notice of dispute, which are available at the JAMS website, www.jamsadr.com/rules-streamline-arbitration, as modified by this agreement. If, for any reason, JAMS is unable to provide the arbitration, then except as otherwise stated below, you may file your dispute with any national arbitration company that handles consumer arbitrations following procedures that are substantially similar to the JAMS rules. Arbitration hearings may be conducted by video conference unless the arbitrator believes an in-person hearing is necessary. In such instances, the location of an arbitration hearing will be decided pursuant to the JAMS rules. For residents outside the United States, arbitration shall be initiated in Los Angeles County, California, and you and Activision agree to submit to the personal jurisdiction of any federal or state court in Los Angeles County, California, in order to compel arbitration to stay proceedings pending arbitration, or to confirm, modify, vacate, or enter judgment on the award entered by the arbitrator. The arbitrator will make a decision in writing but need not provide a statement of reasons unless requested by a party. The arbitrator must follow applicable law. The decisions of the arbitrator shall be final and binding on you and Activision, and any award of the arbitrator may be entered in any court of competent jurisdiction. Except as expressly stated in Section 16 of this agreement, the arbitrator shall determine the scope and enforceability of the arbitration agreement, including whether as dispute is subject to arbitration. And the arbitrator has authority to decide all issues of validity, enforceability, or arbitrability, including but not limited to, where a party raises as a defense to arbitration that the claims are in question are exempted from the arbitration requirement, or that any portion of this agreement is not enforceable. If a lawsuit filed in court includes claims or requests for relief that are arbitrable, and claims of requests for relief that you are not, you and Activision agree that any arbitrable, starting to become not even a word, claims or requests for relief shall be stayed pending the completion of the arbitration of the arbitrable claims or requests for relief. Class action waiver. To the fullest extent allowed by applicable law, you and Activision agree that each party may bring dispute against the other party only in an individual capacity and not as a class action, collective action, or class arbitration, or as a private attorney general. To the extent applicable law does not permit waiver of private attorney general claims, but permits them to be arbitrated, then such claims shall be resolved in arbitration. The arbitrator shall be empowered to grant whatever relief would be available in a court under law or in equity. If any provision in Section 16 of this agreement is found to be unenforceable, that provision shall be served with the remainder of this agreement remaining in full force and effect. The foregoing shall not apply to the prohibition against class or collective actions as provided for above. This means that if the prohibition against class or collective actions is found to be unenforceable for any reason, then the entire Section 16 of this agreement, but only Section 60, shall be null and void. Exception: litigation of intellectual property and small claims court claims. Notwithstanding the party's decision to resolve all disputes through arbitration, either party may bring an action in state or federal court that only asserts claims for patent infringement or invalidity, copyright infringement, moral rights violations, trademark infringement, and/or trade secret misappropriation, but not, for clarity, claims related to the license granted to you for the program under this agreement. Such claims are subject to the jurisdiction and applicable law provisions, Section 17. Either party may also seek relief in a small claims court for any individual disputes or claims within the scope of the court's jurisdiction. If an arbitration is filed before the arbitrator is formally appointed, either party can send written notice to the opposing party and the applicable arbitration provider that it wants the case decided by a small claims court, after which the arbitration provider may close the case. Exception: mass arbitration before FedArb. Notwithstanding the party's decision to have arbitrations administered by JAMS, if 20 or more disputes or demands for arbitration are filed relating to the same or similar subject matter and sharing common issues of law fact, and counsel for the parties submitting the disputes or demands are the same or coordinated, you and we agree that this will constitute a, quote, mass arbitration, unquote. If a mass arbitration is commenced, you and we agree that it shall not be governed by JAMS rules or administered by JAMS. Instead, a mass arbitration shall be administered by FedArb, a nationally recognized arbitration provider, and governed by the FedArb rules in effect when the mass arbitration is filed, excluding any rules that permit arbitration on a class-wide basis. Open bracket, the, quote, FedArb rules, end quote, close bracket. And under the rules set forth in this agreement, the FedArb rules are available at www.fedarb.com/ or by calling 1-650-328-9500. You and we agree that the mass arbitration shall be resolved using the FedArb's framework for mass arbitration proceedings, ADR-MDL, available at www.fedarb.com/. Before any mass arbitration is filed with FedArb, you and we agreed to contact FedArb jointly to advise that the parties intended to use FedArb's framework for mass arbitration proceedings, ADR-MDL. The individual demands comprising that the mass arbitration shall be submitted on FedArb's claim forms and as directed by FedArb, notwithstanding the party's decision to have an arbitrator decide all issues of validity, enforcementability, or arbitrability. You and Activision agree that if either party fails or refuses to commence the mass arbitration before FedArb, then in this instance only you or Activision may seek injunctive relief from a court compelling compliance and directing administration of the mass arbitration before FedArb. Such requests are subject to the jurisdiction and applicable law provisions, Section 17, and, pending resolution of such requests, you and we agree that all arbitrations comprising the mass arbitration, open bracket, and any obligation to pay arbitration fees, close bracket, shall be stayed. 30-day right to opt out. You have the right to opt out and not be bound by the arbitration agreement and class action waiver provisions in this Section 16 by sending written notice of your decision to opt out of the following email address, legalaffairs@activision.com, using the subject line arbitration opt out. The notice must be sent within 30 days of purchasing the program, open bracket, or if no purchase was made, then within 30 days of the date on which you first accessed or used the program and agrees to these terms, close bracket. Otherwise, you shall be bound to arbitrate disputes in accordance with the terms of this Section 16 if you opt out of these arbitration provisions. Activision also will not be bound by them. All right. That was a lot. We knew it would be a lot. Basically, hey, you want to do a lawsuit against us? Here are the rules you have to play by, and you're agreeing to these rules. It starts with arbitration, which I'm going to be honest, I heard that in college. It's been 4 years. I don't remember what that means. Yada, yada, yada. This just lays out basically the timeline of what will happen should you or Activision initiate some sort of lawsuit or action against them, which it states multiple times. You cannot do a class action. It sounds like you can't do any class action anything against them, which is interesting. You're waiving out of that. That said, you can still basically say, hey, I have an issue. I want to talk with you. And to their credit, they are stating that, we want to fix this outside of court first, which obviously they are. It's always better to have a settlement outside of court for any company or individual, pretty much. And when I say better, I mean in the sense of publicity and legalese and all that. But nonetheless, you are still agreeing to play by certain rules, and that is one of them. So, Section 16 is just what rules do I have to play by in order to make a claim against you or for you to make a claim against me. Basically. All right. Section 17. Jurisdiction, applicable law, and contracting parties. This program is made available subject to the terms of this agreement. If you acquired and used a program from A, 17A, for residents in the United States, Mexico, or Canada, then any claims or requests for relief arising from out of this agreement, open bracket, including interpretation claims for breach and all other claims or requests for relief, open bracket, including consumer protection, unfair competition, and tort claims, close bracket, will be subject to the laws of the state of Delaware without reference to conflict of laws principles. If any court or arbitrator determines that the, quote, class action waiver, unquote, paragraph set forth above is void or unenforceable for any reason, or that an arbitration can proceed on a class basis, then any and all claims arising out of this agreement, open bracket, including interpretation claims for breach and all other claims or requests for relief, open bracket, including consumer protection, unfair competition, and tort claims, close bracket, shall be decided under the laws of the state where you were a citizen at the time you obtained or bought the program that was subject to this agreement. In addition, you and we irrevocably consent to the exclusive jurisdiction and venue of state or federal courts in Los Angeles County, California, to resolve any claims or requests for relief that are subject to exceptions to the arbitration agreement described in binding arbitration and class action waiver above or otherwise determined not to be arbitrable. Nothing in this paragraph shall preclude you or Activision from moving to federal court a case originally filed in state court if federal court jurisdiction exists. To the fullest extent permitted by law, any claim or request for relief and a demand for arbitration filed pursuant to Section 16 of this agreement, as well as any claim or request for relief in a lawsuit filed in court under an exemption of the arbitration agreement in Section 16, shall be barred if filed more than 2 years after the date that the claim or request for relief occurred. 17b. For residents in the European Union and United Kingdom, then the laws of England and Wales govern the interpretation of this agreement and apply to claims for breach of it without reference to conflict of laws principles. All other claims, including claims regarding consumer protection laws, unfair consumption laws, and in tort, will be subject to the laws of the country. Example, the United Kingdom, the French Republic, or the Federal Republic of Germany, close bracket, in which you acquired and used the program. In addition, with respect to jurisdiction, you may choose either the courts of the country, open bracket, example, the United Kingdom, the French Republic, or the Federal Republic of Germany, close bracket, in which you acquired and used the program, or in the alternative, the courts of England and Wales or other court as applicable under the Brussels Regulation EC 44/2001. 17C. For residents in Australia or Japan, then the laws of Australia govern the interpretation of this agreement and apply to claims for breach of it without reference to conflict of laws principles. All other claims, including claims regarding consumer protection laws, unfair competition laws, and in tort, will be subject to the laws of the country in which you acquired and used the program, open bracket, being either Australia or Japan, close bracket, to the extent permitted by applicable law, you agree to the jurisdiction of the courts of New South Wales, Australia. There's a New South Wales? 17D. For residents in the rest of the world, if you acquired and use this program from countries other than those listed in sections A, B, and C above, then you do so on your own initiative and are responsible for compliance with local laws, if and to the extent local laws are applicable, and you expressly indemnify and hold harmless Activision from any and all claims, loss, injury, damage, or costs arising from your use of the program to the extent permitted by applicable law. No warranty or representation is made by Activision that the program or any use of the program outside of the countries listed in sections A, B, and C above complies with any applicable local law. Further, your use of the program and all claims arising out of or related to the program or this agreement will, to the extent permitted under applicable law, be subject to the laws of England and Wales without reference to conflict of laws principles, and you consent to the jurisdiction of the courts of England and Wales. To the extent permitted by applicable law, you and Activision agree to waive rights to a trial by jury. 17E. Contracting parties. For residents in the United States, Mexico, Canada, you are contracting with Activision Publishing Incorporated, 2701 Olympic Boulevard, Building B, Santa Monica, California, 90404. For residents in EMEA, Europe, including United Kingdom, Middle East, and Africa, Russia, you are contracting with Activision Blizzard UK Limited, the Ampersand Building, 7178 Wardour Street, London, United Kingdom, W1F8FY. For residents in LATAM, excluding Mexico, when using the program on the Battle.net platform as well as any Nintendo platforms. Interesting. Interesting. You are contracting with Activision Publishing Incorporated of 2701 Olympic Boulevard, Building B, Santa Monica, California, 90404. I'm going to memorize that by my own zip code. Any other platforms, including open bracket, including Sony, Microsoft, Xbox console platforms, or through mobile device, close bracket, you are contracting with Activision Blizzard International LLC of 2701 Olympic Boulevard, Building B, Santa Monica, California, 90404. For residents in Korea, when using this program on a mobile device downloadable from Google Play Store and iOS App Store, you are contracting with Activision Blizzard International LLC, 2701 Olympic Boulevard, Building B, Santa Monica, 90404. Any other platforms, you're contracting with Blizzard Entertainment Limited of 15F, Parnas Tower, 521, Tarana, Tehran Ro, Gangnam Gu, Seoul, Korea. For residents in APAC, excluding Korea, when using a program on the Battle.net platform as well as any Sony and or Nintendo platforms, you're contracting with Activision Publishing Incorporated of 2701 Olympic Boulevard, Building B, Santa Monica, California, 90404. A mobile device, open bracket, except in the following territories which are excluded: Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, South Korea, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore, Laos, Brunei, Myanmar, Cambodia, and East Timor, close bracket. You are contracting with Activision Blizzard International LLC of 2701 Olympic Boulevard, Building B, Santa Monica, California, 90404. Any other platforms, including Microsoft, open bracket, including Microsoft, Xbox console platforms, close bracket. You are contracting with Activision Blizzard International LLC of 2701 Olympic Boulevard, Building B, Santa Monica, California, 90404. To the fullest extent permitted by applicable law, if any user outside the United States is entitled to commerce and/or participate in legal proceedings within the United States, and that user agrees to be bound by the binding arbitration, class, and action waiver provisions above. Basically, from what I'm gathering, this is on top of Section 16, which is all about, obviously, arbitration and lawsuits and action against one party or another, and goes more specifically about where you can do this, depending on what country you are and what platform you use their products on. There's nothing huge here. This is just general, covering their butts. and again, playing out the rules. And, you know, yeah, the courts can still rule that even though you agree to this, if it is a class action lawsuit, then we'll have a chat about that, and yada, yada, yada. There is a lot here that kind of supersedes Section 16, but even still, it has the point across of here are the rules that we have to play by together. So, not going to say, didn't have to read it, but it is what it is. 18. Miscellaneous. This agreement is a complete agreement concerning this license between the parties and supersedes all prior agreements and representations between them. If any provision of this agreement is held to be unenforceable, the applicable provision shall be reformed only to the extent necessary to make it enforceable, and the remaining provisions of this agreement shall not be affected except as otherwise expressly provided herein. 18 is more or less the cherry on top, the be-all, end-all of this EULA. The whole point of it is just say, look, all of this stuff up here, everything that we've gone through, yes, this is enforceable. Yes, this is what we are going by. Anything that you have agreed to in the past between you and I being Activision, you being the person reading this, i.e. the player, are now null and void. This is what we go by, and if something is not enforceable, then the applicable provision shall be reformed only to the extent necessary to make it enforceable. So, let's say, for example, I can only imagine, like, I don't know, limitation of damages, right? Like, for whatever reason, they can't agree with their thing about for other liability, or let's say fraudulent misrepresentation. That's not enforceable. They're going to change that so it is enforceable. Something like that. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to go back and change something only to the extent that will make the part of the EULA in question now enforceable. So, that's a cherry on top. That's all it is. Nothing huge in this. 19 is strictly for Germany. I consider not reading this. But I'm already an hour and 45 minutes in. I might as well read the last section. 19, supplemental terms, Germany. The following sections below supersede and replace the corresponding sections above for residents in Germany. Patches and updates. Activision may, if the change is solely for your benefit or if another valid reason exists, deploy or provide mandatory patches, updates, and modifications to the program that must be installed for you to continue to use the program. A valid reason includes, for example, to 19A, ensure compliance with applicable laws and/or reflect change in relevant laws and regulatory reinforcements. 19B, perform temporary maintenance, fix bugs, and implement technical adjustments and make improvements. 19C, update or upgrade the program, including updating the structure, design, or layout of the program. 19D, ensure the security of the program. And 19E, to combat against illegal and/or harmful activities and the use of unauthorized programs or other activities which breach this agreement. Broadband internet is required for such patches, updates, and modifications. You are responsible for any and all broadband access and usage fees. We will not be liable for any malfunction, error or error to the program or service provided content caused by your failure to install an update, where we have informed you of the consequences of not installing the update. If any updates to the program result in negatively impacting your access or use of the program in a more than minor way, you will give at least 6 weeks notice, and we will give you at least 6 weeks notice, and you will have 30 days from our notice of the change or from the change comes into effect, open bracket, whichever is later, end bracket. To reject the change and terminate the agreement, you may also be able to receive a proportionate refund of any program or service provided content paid for but not yet received. Please see support.activision.com / for more information. If you do not reject these changes or terminate the agreement from within the stated time limit, we will take that as your acceptance of the changes. This is all stuff we've read before. Modification of terms. From time to time, Activision may need to amend this agreement if there is a good reason for the change and the changes reasonably take into the account in the interests of both parties. For example, to reflect or include new products or services, to enhance security for users, or because of changes in the law, but we will not modify the terms to change our main obligations to you. If Activision makes a change to this agreement, we will inform you of the particular changes in advance of the changes coming into force, and you will have at least 6 weeks starting, open bracket, starting from our notice to you, close bracket, to indicate whether you accept the amended agreement. You shall be deemed to have accepted these changes 19.1, unless you have notified us of your objection to such changes within the stated 6 weeks, or 19.2, if you use the program after the changes have entered into force. In the notification, we will inform you of your right to object, of the applicable notice period, and the legal consequences of a failure to object. The latest version of this agreement will always be available on our website, so we recommend that you check for updates to this agreement each time you use the program. Again, goes back to what I said like an hour ago. Changes to the agreement shall not affect your accrued rights, shall not substantially disrupt the contractual balance between you and us under this agreement, shall not have retroactive effect. And shall not have retroactive effect, excuse me. The following section below supersedes and replaces subsections 2 and 3 of section 8, open bracket, apostrophe, termination, apostrophe, close bracket, colon. Termination. 19.2. Activision may terminate the license granted to you under this agreement and/or suspend, modify, or delete your account if you seriously violate this agreement. We will notify you in advance if we decide to terminate or suspend the license, unless we are terminating or suspending it to comply with a legal obligation which does not include a prior notice obligation, or this is not possible due to the obligation to take immediate action. We will restore this license if we have good cause to believe our actions were not sufficiently justified. Serious violations are violations of important provisions, which include Section 3, 11A, and 11D of this agreement. Repeated violations of other provisions of this agreement, open bracket, including further non-compliance where you have already received a prior warning, close bracket, and as otherwise detailed in the applicable program security and enforcement policy at support.activision.com. If you think that such decision was taken wrongly, you can contact Activision at support.activision.com. Activision may also terminate the license granted to you under this agreement and/or suspend, modify, or delete your account if it has another valid reason to do so. Open bracket, for example, ceasing an online service for economic reasons due to a limited number of users continuing to make use of the service over time, end bracket, or without reason by giving you a reasonable prior notice. If Activision terminates the licenses granted to you under this agreement and/or suspends or deleted your account, this means that your access to and right to use the program will be revoked. With the exception of agreements relating to 19.3. With the exception of agreements relating to 19.3.1, service provided content, or 19.3.2, programs which do not involve aspects of online-based gameplay. If you are a resident in a country in the European Economic Area, you have a legal right to cancel your agreement with us within the time limits set out in applicable consumer laws. Instructions on how to exercise this right are set out at the end of this agreement in Appendix 1, open bracket, Section 8, apostrophe, information concerning the exercise of the right to withdrawal, apostrophe, close bracket. Hey, Appendix 1. All right, so that's the end of 19. So 19 is just specifically for Germany and talking about, I guess, reiterating certain things for them. I'm sure the word is just a little bit different from what we already read, but who knows. Appendix 1A. Appendix 1A. Information concerning the exercise of the rights of withdrawal. Rights of withdrawal. You have the right to withdraw from this agreement within 14 calendar days without giving any reason. The withdrawal period will expire after 14 calendar days from the day of the conclusion of the agreement. To exercise the right of withdrawal, you must inform us, open bracket, legal term, Activision Blizzard UK Limited, the Ampersand Building, 178 Wardour Street, London, W1F8FY, United Kingdom, or via support.activision.com, close bracket, of your decision to withdraw from the agreement by an unequivocal statement, open bracket, example, a letter sent by post or email, close bracket. You may use the model withdrawal form attached hereafter, but it is not obligatory. To meet the withdrawal deadline, it is sufficient for you to send your communication concerning your exercise of the right of withdrawal before the withdrawal period has expired. Effective withdrawal. If you withdraw from the agreement, we shall reimburse to you all payments received from you under this agreement, including the cost of delivery, if applicable, open bracket, with the exception of supplementary costs resulting from your choice of a type delivery rather than the least expensive type of standard delivery offered by us, close bracket, without undue delay, and in any event, not later than 14 calendar days from the day on which we are informed about your decision to withdraw from this agreement. We will carry out such reimbursement using the same means of payment as you used for the initial transaction, unless you expressly agreed otherwise. In any event, you will not incur any fees as a result of such reimbursement. If you lose your right of withdrawal, insofar as the agreement is a service contract, after the service has been fully performed, and if the performance has begun with your prior express consent, and with the acknowledgement that you will lose your right of withdrawal once service has been fully performed by us. You lose your right of withdrawal insofar as the agreement comprises the supply of digital content which is not supplied on a tangible medium if the performance has begun with your prior express consent and your acknowledgement that you thereby lose your right of withdrawal. Based on the above, you understand that by purchasing service-provided content, you consent that we make available the service-provided content to you directly after we have accepted your order. You will lose your right of withdrawal once the service-provided content has been made fully available to you by us. However, your right of withdrawal is not lost if you purchase virtual goods that are not granted to you for a certain period of time. Open bracket, example, limited time premium memberships, close bracket. Appendix 1B, model withdrawal form. The bottom. Open bracket, complete and return this form only if you wish to withdraw from this agreement. We also strongly recommend that you submit this form to the retailer or platform partner, open bracket, with the relevant information about them filled out below, close bracket, who you purchased the product from in order to withdraw from the agreement, close bracket. I yawned right at the end, I'm sorry. To legal team, Activision Blizzard UK Limited of the Ampersand Building, 178 Wardour Street, London, W1F B8FY, United Kingdom. Alright, so this is what you want to use. We hereby give notice, we withdraw from my/our contract for the purchase of the following goods / the provision of the following services. Ordered/received on. Name of consumers. Address of consumers. Signature of consumers. Only required if this form is notified on paper. Date. Deletion where appropriate. That last part, deletion where appropriate, has an asterisk, which goes back to order/received on. Appendix 1C. Statutory guarantees under French law for residents in France regarding the product. French law grants you, as consumers, the following statutory rights and guarantees in relation to the product. Activision will therefore offer you the protection granted by law under the legal warranty of conformity provided by Articles L. 224-25-12 to L. 224-25-26 of the French Consumer Code. Activision is liable for supplying digital contents and services that comply with the agreement and with the objective and subjective criteria set out by the law. Regarding one-off supply, Activision is accountable for any non-conformity that exists at the time of supply and which becomes apparent within 2 years of supply. Regarding digital content or service supplied on a continuous basis, Activision is accountable for any non-conformity which becomes apparent during this period in which it is supplied under the agreement. We are also accountable wherein the same time limits for any non-conformity resulting from the incorrect integration of the digital content or service into the consumer's digital environment, where this has been done by us or under our responsibility, or where the incorrect integration by the consumer is the result of deficiencies in the instructions provided by us. For the 12-month period following the supply of the product, this consumer will not be required the consumer will not be required to prove the existence of the defect. In the event of lack of conformity, the consumer shall be entitled to have the digital content or service brought into conformity, or failing that, to have the price reduced or to cancel the contract under the conditions set out by the French Consumer Code. Congratulations! You have officially had read to you the entire EULA of Call of Duty. Now, what do I take away from this? Oh, by the way, review, I guess. Appendix 1 is just how to cancel your agreement to this whole form and what you are and are not entitled to. I don't know if that is only for Germany still or not. I'm sure it said earlier and I just don't remember. I've been doing this for 2 hours straight now. But there you go. So what do I take away from this? It is what you expect. There are no real shocks here. Something that I didn't expect, if I'm honest, are the user-generated content stuff. Like, it makes sense. I just never thought about it. How the UGC is able to be used in any effect, apparently, in the universe that has yet to even be created, which is kind of hilarious. Kind of funny, honestly. But yeah, basically, they can do whatever they want. We all know this. This is nothing new. I made this video just to get across to you guys, here's a reference if you ever want. Sorry, that probably didn't sound good. If you ever want, here's a reference for the EULA of Call of Duty, so you don't have to go and read it for yourself, along with timestamps and under the description, which should equate to sections in the video. So you can go through and jump around and hear different things. Number one and number two, kind of my take on it. Not that that's really important. Again, I'm not a legal body or entity in any effect, but I do want this to be out there so people can at least hear verbatim with the screen, with no face camera or anything, no reactionary content, just the words that they use so you know where their heads are at and what you can and can't do. They own your profile, and the moment that... The biggest thing, honestly, I wish I knew offhand where I read it, but somewhere in this, I know it mentions that you are no longer bound by this should you fully delete all copies of the program and the program off of your computer and or hardware. So you delete this, you are no longer bound by this, essentially. And I do think that should you do that, you have to go and re-acknowledge them. Now, I don't know if that includes the account. I can't imagine that they remove the record of you agreeing to this from your account in Call of Duty, but I don't know. Terms of use, I'm going to be honest, guys. I want to read this. I will read this, but not today. There will be another video talking about the TOS, which I'm really interested in this. Very interested in this. This, I think, is going to where a lot of our questions are going to pop up. Hopefully. I mean, look at that. 12. Consent to monitor. Like, this stuff is pretty good. So, we will read this another day. Social media. If you're a registered user of social media sites, you may be able to connect. Yeah, so. Anyway, before I get sucked into that, and also privacy policy, which, oh boy, these are going to be long. But, that's it. Thanks, guys. Love you. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please hit that like button. Show this book gets more videos just like this. Well, actually, not just like this one. I only want to make 2 more of these. I'm going to be honest. I don't want to make 2 more many of these. But yeah, there you go. Love you guys. Remember to tell me someone loves you, even though I don't know yet. Thank you so much for watching. If you did watch the whole thing, let me know. If you didn't, I guess let me know. I don't know. It's up to you, man. Someone loves you, even if I don't know it yet. I'm losing my voice. Jesus loves you. Have a great day, you guys. Take care. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.